Welcome to the Sports Show with Bob Spino, where we're discussing the age-old practice of sports betting. Since time immemorial, people have been betting on any type of sport you can think of, and the practice persists today. Now, let it be known to all that we do not in any way, shape, or form condone sports betting, as gambling can get you into a lot of trouble. That being said, Bob, what do you got to say about sports betting? What's your experience? What were the good times? What were the bad times?
Well, as a rule, I think the funniest times is watching my friend hit the skids as much as he did. I'm not a bettor as a rule, but I do have an ironic story that goes with that. He would always bet and bet and bet and bet and lose and lose and lose a lot. And he would get frustrated and he would call me, I lost again, I lost again. And so finally one day I would laugh or do whatever. And I said, well, who are you betting? And, one night he's like, well, I lost on a dunk at the buzzer. Another guy missed a shot. And then the other guy hit a three at the buzzer. So I said to him, I go, why did you bet? Why did you bet against, the home team? And he's like, well, this team was better. That team was better. I go, well, wait a minute. And you got to understand, this happened in 98, 99 season in the NBA. So I go, why don't you just bet against the Bulls? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, the Bulls just lost all their players. Jordan, Pippen, all those guys are gone. So I go, they're not going to win anytime soon. And I go, better yet, bet against them on the road. Because, and I know the stats are technically lower than this, but I was taught, the home team wins like 82% of the time in the NBA, 72 in football, like 70 in baseball, and 65% in hockey. And I said, just bet against them every night. They're not going to win. And they went for months. And I said, he goes, but if I bet the points, I'll lose. I go, are you allowed to bet straight up without points? He goes, yeah. I go, then do it. And he was like, but I won't win as much. I go, yeah, dummy, but you'll never lose. It'll all start adding up. And sure as heck. And then as the season went on, I would give him tips. I go, Minnesota's going to win tonight by 30. And they did at home, and, Sacramento used to play Tuesday night games. And it used to be Domino's Pizza night if they scored over 100. And they weren't very good at the time, but they would never lose on Tuesday. And I go, they're home, just bet them. And he went on this incredible run in about 2.5 months where he made $8,000. So at the end of the year, like the Nets end up playing against the Bulls in New Jersey. And I said, okay, don't bet it tonight. Don't bet against Chicago. And by the way, Chicago went 3 months without winning a road game. And he goes, why not? Why not? I go, because the Nets just clinched the playoff. I go, they're not going to play their players. And sure as heck, they didn't. And sure as heck, the Bulls won the road game. And he didn't lose the shirt. So the last game of the season, Knicks and Nets played each other. And Ewing was still with the Knicks. So I said to him, I go, take all your money and bet it all. And bet with points, and you'll break the 20,000. And he got scared. He goes, I can't do that. 80 will become 16, become 32, and I'll never stop. And I go, just bet it. And sure as heck, he doesn't bet it. So we go out, and we watch the game, and the Nets are destroying them at halftime. I think it was like 18, 20 points. And he was like, I told you. Go, game ain't over yet. It's not over yet. Second half, the Knicks roped them, beat them by like 30, 35 points in the second half. Won the game by more than 10, which they would have covered. He would have won. And he goes, well, now listen, I would have won everything. Oh! And we were winning so much with our picks that at one time we were 44-1 and 98-2 in our first 100. And he wanted to open up a line. He's like, oh, yeah, we'll give him all these tips. Once in a while, we'll give him a bad one. So they come back for more. I go, oh, really? And he was like, he was telling everybody, he goes, this is my system. I look and go, whose system was it? And he went, well, you helped. I go, yeah, I helped. My friend was such a bad bettor that but he was such a bad bettor that he bet Brazil and Colombia, and Brazil, I think, won for 100 straight years in that crazy soccer game. And I didn't know nothing about it. He came to me, he was like, I just bet, I just bet Brazil tonight. I go, oh really? He goes, yeah, they're playing Colombia. They can't lose. I'm out driving around the next day, and I hear the reporter on the news going, for the first time in 100 years, Colombia beats Brazil. I almost drove off the street laughing. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. But that was the experience, and there are ways to do it. And I actually talked to a girl that I ran into her one night. We were out watching the baseball game, and this kid comes over, and I look at him. He worked the Fridays, and I go, "You guys gonna hit a home run on the Mets at this? You watch on the next pitch, crack." Guy hits the pitch over the fence, and he looked at me like, "Is this game live?" I go, "Yeah, it's live." He goes, "No, it isn't." I go, "It's live." He goes, "But you just said." I go, "That's right. You hit the home run." I go, "When you're watching it for as long as I have, you know what's coming, right?" And like the girl sitting there, she was in the Texas tournament, the one in Vegas, the Texas Hold'em thing, and she was a big time winner. She didn't do it as much, but she would win and bring the money home to help her mother because the mother wasn't well. And I told her all those stats about, you know, betting the home team, doing this and that. And she goes, do you have a book? Like wrote all this. Then I go, yeah, the book's in my head. I don't got no book. Right. And she was like, that's amazing. Like, I love this. And sure as heck, tonight I'm actually out and I'm eating steak. And, everybody there knows me because I eat a lot of steak. But they come over here and say, hey, Bob, how's it going? Hey, Bob. So we're watching the Laker game. They lost tonight, by the way. And I go, everybody's like, well, the guy comes up and goes, did you pick Phoenix to win this game? I go, yeah. And he goes, why? I go, because did you pick them before the game? I go, yeah, because the game's in Phoenix. And he just looked at me and I go, last year LeBron lucked out because they played in a dome in Orlando. I go, this time you got to play a real road game. Right. And then he was like, you think? I go, yeah. So the game comes down to 5 minutes to go. Right. And I go, okay, Phoenix is up by 10. This game's over. He went, well, I don't know. I go, uh-huh. I go, game's over. And he goes, why do you say that? I go, because I learned when my brother was in the NBA. If you have a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go, you win the game 99% of the time. There are exceptions, of course. Luck outs, bad calls, you start missing shots. Referee helps LeBron, stuff like that. But you know what? They end up losing the game. And I figured it out statistically with 5 minutes to go, because there's a 5-minute overtime in the NBA. If you usually a team gets between 10 to 12 points in a 5-minute span, in an overtime span. Sometimes you'll really tear it up and you'll get 20, but it's very rare. You'll get 10 to 12. So what that means is when there's 5 minutes to go in a game, if a team has a 10-point lead with 5 to go, they only have to hit one more basket, 2 at the most. That's it. And they're going to do that. Whether it's a 1-3 or 2-2s, they're going to do it. And that's going to be enough to keep the lead. Ironically, tonight, Phoenix won 99-90. They won by 9 because the Lakers could only outscore them by 1 point in the last 5 minutes. So there you go. There's your 99%. It happens. And people don't get it. Everybody's taught, in the last minute of the game is determined. No. Wrong. And people don't know that. They've never been taught it. And I'm sure a lot of people lost bets because of that. But that's how you do it. And you know what? Weirdly enough, the one guy who at the restaurant went, hey, let's bet the last 5 minutes, boy. Did you hear what Bob said? I was like, don't bet it. Don't. But when I got home, I saw the final score, and they won by 9. They won by 9. And that's what people don't understand. The home court, the home field, the home ice means everything. You don't believe me? Ask Tom Brady playing at home last year. Would that have been different? Would that game be different in Kansas City? You can bet on it. You can bet on it.
You can bet on it, folks. You can bet on it.
There you go. And you know what? And people reason stupid, Rob. because they're like, well, they're both playing in the same place. Yeah, but it's not your place, is it? It's their place. That's the difference. And that's why a lot of people lose their bets. They don't know what they're doing.
They
That was
don't,
my
and
experience, Rob. How
it
about
gets
yours?
people into trouble. It does get people in trouble when they don't know what they're doing, and you do need to do some homework before you start putting those dollars down. But for me, I've definitely won more than I've lost. But I got to tell you, Bob, when I've lost in a blaze of glory. I mean, I'm the guy who basically I'll lose on a missed extra point. I'll lose on the onside kick getting
Oh,
scooped up and ran back all the way. The missed layup at the end, the turnover at the end. I mean, you name a complete outlier scenario, and that's how I'm going to lose. If the crazy madness doesn't happen, I'm usually in good shape. But if I see that fluky thing happen, I just resign myself. I'm defeated. But I've done pretty well in some of the tournaments, both men's and women's basketball tournament. I've done well in, and I just think that comes from an experience of decades watching college basketball. You just eventually get a feel, and once you get involved in these pools, you find yourself towards the top of the ranks.
well, you know what? I mean, we did pretty well in a pool a couple of years ago in the NCAA tournament. Am I right, Rob? And we broke them down. But you know what? The problem here's the
yeah. No, we actually won two of those three pools.
Right. You know what? The problem with here's another thing no one talks about. A lot of people can win like when they're analyzing and not betting, but something happens once you're actually bet. You start second guessing and everything that you thought was going to happen, or you talk yourself out of it. It doesn't happen. It's weird that way. But you know what? If you just stick to what I said, it's a good bet. There's that word again. It's a good bet that you're going to win more times than not.
Another thing that I do, Bob, is I avoid betting on teams I'm emotionally invested in. So you won't ever see me betting on a Syracuse game.
No, I know. You've actually stopped us doing the tournament. You wouldn't do it with me because of that a few times.
Yeah, folks. I actually don't play in the NCAA tournament whenever Syracuse makes it. So I rarely play a tournament pool, but when I do, I come to win, and I usually do.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. And you know what, though? Like, if you just stick to that simple stuff and don't get too greedy, believe me, you may not win a lot of money every night, but when are you going to lose? You're not. It's going to add up. It's just like taking it slow.
And that's why, Bob, we're bringing on our guest tonight. Folks, in about 10 minutes or so, we're bringing on a lifelong experience, dare I say, professional gambler who has literally turned the art of gambling into a sound, methodical practice where he takes the house every year. So he's going to come on in about 10 minutes and share some of his insights and experiences. So get your notepad and paper out, folks. You might have something to learn coming up pretty soon in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, you know what? Now he actually does it slow as well. Is that right, Rob? Is that true?
This man will
he kind of slows it.
This man makes his bets for the NFL season as soon as the schedule comes out. He'll make bets in other games as soon as the lines come out, even a year ahead of time. He has this thing plotted out. He's got his notebooks. I mean, he calculates everything. He takes into account the weather forecast, the altitude, all the injuries. He really does his best to cover every potential variable to make his calculus and make the right bet, and it pays off. He's not literally a scientific manner. It does work, and it comes with experience too. I mean, he's been watching sports for over almost 60 years now, so he has a winning formula, and I'll be interested to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, me too. You know what? The most important thing is look, there's a lot of stats, and you can break them down, and he does. That's awesome. But you know what? It's still about the home field because, and even when the Celtics were great, in the '80s, I had a friend who was a big Knicks fan, and he was sure. He was like, oh, like the one year with Hubie Brown, in '84, the Knicks were really tough. And could they have beaten the Lakers? I don't know if they would have. They wouldn't have the seventh game at home. But the way Bernard King was playing that year, yeah, who knows? But I knew they weren't going to beat Boston, and he kept saying, "Well, they're going to win today." Well, I go, "No, you're not." I go, "Where's game one being played? Boston. But we got this." Yeah, okay. Next day they lose by maybe 5-6 points. Game two, we were so close. No, you won't. Boom. And then Boston goes and lays a couple eggs in New York. It's 2-2. And then, of course, that makes the Knicks fans think, oh, we got it. Yeah, you went to Boston, got roped in game five. And then you actually won game six. You killed us. Or the Knicks killed us. I'm a Celtic fan, by the way. In game seven, they thought, we got him now. I go, yeah, no, that's right, Rob. You're not. But you know what? And they thought, but my friend was, and I told him, and I go, and he really thought, like, we could do this in Boston. And I'm like, look, it's hard enough to win road games as is. But once you get to game seven on the road, you can kiss it goodbye. Because, like, one of the few times it ever happened made me become a Knick hater in 1973. Because it hasn't happened much. And I never forgave him for it. Phil Jackson, thank you very much. With your one foul shot. Yeah, in the whole game. Thank you very much. But it's very hard to do. And it takes a special team and a whole lot of luck to do it. And and the Knicks got roped in Boston in game seven, and he didn't understand it. And he kept doing this year after year, and finally he got to go, you got to be the home team in game seven. You just got to be. And then he finally came to that conclusion. But it took him a long time. It's really important.
Well, I will say, Bob,
Anything
that
else?
I have to give Vegas some credit. They, especially when it comes to the professional games, NBA, NFL, whatnot, they do get the lines pretty good. And I try to avoid.
They do. My brother's amazed at that, actually.
Yeah, I try to avoid the professional games and stick to not even the mainstream college games, but the lower tier, mid-majors, low majors. That's where I find you can maybe take advantage of a potentially good line. Because if you try to play, Bama versus LSU, they're probably going to be pretty good there. But if you play, another team like San Jose State versus UTEP or something like that, and that's, I'm not putting them down. I'm just stating that's where they are. They're a mid-major set of teams. You might have a good chance there, and that's what I tend to play.
Right. Well, we'll find that out from him. Somebody told me it's actually easier betting the lower levels and not the pros. I always thought the pros were pretty easy myself, but I mean, we'll get his take on it. He'll let us know about that. So,
I mean, I got to say, you are pretty good at the pros. You do seem to nail the pro games. I've struggled a lot with the pro teams. I don't really play the lines. I tend to go money line on those.
Well, money line's fine. And like, that's what I told my friend to do, when he won all that money. We did money line. And then once in a while, he would kind of like tease it with the others. And maybe if it was like a 1 point or a 2 point spread, he'd do it. Because I go, just take the home team. It's like a pick'em game. You pick the home team, just do it, and they'll win. And most of the time, and you make a little more by doing that. So, but it's pretty easy, really. I always thought that hockey was harder, but we'll find out. Maybe, and baseball, the thing about that is the home team will win most of the time, not all the time, because you got to deal with the pitching. Although even that's kind of changed now because they take the pitchers out. If they just leave them in, a lot of times, yeah, you'd get those wins. Even the road team would get a few wins if they left their good pitchers in, but that's kind of changed. And hockey's got to be hard. I mean, but still, and the reason I think hockey there's not a big discrepancy, not as much of one. And, when you have the home ices, because the fans can't get into it. They just sit there and go, yeah, until somebody scores, because there's not a lot of scoring. So, like with basketball, they're scoring on every play, so the fans are right down the other team's throat. You know what I'm saying, Rob? You okay there, Rob?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. I wouldn't touch hockey with a 10-foot pole, to be honest with you. I wouldn't touch baseball either. And that's mainly because I'm not as well versed in the game as I would be confident to be betting on it. But for anyone that likes betting, if you do like it and you're not losing your shirt over it, Vegas during the NCAA tournament is like a holiday. I mean, it's fun because you could play all the games, all the angles, all the spread, money line, points per half, points per 5 minutes. I mean, you name it, you can play it. And tournament time in Vegas is something else. I mean, especially if you live in a cold place, going there around March, it's just beautiful, and it's totally legal. And it's becoming legal in more places, but you want to do it in a jurisdiction that's legal.
Right. I'll tell you what, though, they bet everything out there. They're probably betting the chess championship as we're speaking, and the checkers. But I'm sure they got it down, right? I'm sure they're like, yeah, he's going to double jump him and he's going to win this game, and they're king me, But it's there's ways you can win, but there's a heck of a lot of ways you can lose too. You got to be real careful. So, it's not easy. I mean, but like I said, when the guest comes on, he's gonna let us know. He'll tell us everything. So.
Yeah, so stay tuned, folks. He should be coming on in the next few minutes, and he's gonna have some stories to tell. I have to say, like I said before, that I go by my intuition, and probably my best win ever in betting came from a time where I was with my little niece, and she was watching the movie Moana. If anyone had seen that movie, there was this ridiculous chicken that it was so involved with all the crazy events happening. Somehow the chicken kept surviving. It was a goofy thing, cross-eyed, goofy-looking chicken, and this chicken just stuck out to me, and it was a rooster actually. The chicken was just so absurd. Of course, it was imprinted in my mind. Well, ironically, at the same time as we were watching that movie, the South Carolina Gamecock girls had made the Final Four. And there was something, I can't remember at the moment. I believe South Carolina, the women's program, had never made the Final Four. There was something unique about it.
I think that's it.
It might have been because the South Carolina
I believe. They won it.
Yes, the men's team also – South Carolina men's team also made the Final Four.
Yeah.
Syracuse lost that year, by the way,
Four,
which is terrible.
Right.
So both the South Carolina men's and women's team, and if anyone knows South Carolina, they're the Gamecocks. They have a chicken for their mascot. So I went pretty much all in on the South Carolina women. And I also went in – I predicted the South Carolina men would lose, but I accurately predicted the spread of that losing game, and then predicting both games for the South Carolina women, and I raked it in. And all because I saw that stupid chicken rooster on the movie.
Now, it really doesn't get any more scientific than that, does it?
Like I said, I'm kind of the opposite of the Herbmeister. He's the scientist, I'm the magician.
Yeah.